Today I'm going to talk about the unified auditing, which is a new feature introduced in Oracle 12c release 1. And if we talk about in earlier Oracle versions, each component has its own audit trail. But with unified auditing, you just need to query one single table, unified audit trail, to get all the auditing details. That's a simplified in unified auditing. And unified auditing by default has 7 audit policies. So in unified auditing, you have an option to create your own custom audit policies to track individual users based on your requirements. So that's the benefit, and that allows you to configure your own policies and track their actions. So with unified audit trail policy, it basically supports couple of auditing as well. If you run a data pump and if you're running Oracle RMAN and you have a fine grain auditing, you have a sys operation. If you have option enable at audit sys operation at database level, and we have a standard database auditing and furthermore. And with unified auditing, it basically allows two mode of auditing this operations basically. So one is the mixed mode auditing and other one is the full mode or pure mode auditing. So if you want to see whether my database is using mixed mode or full mode, so you can query $option view, and where we can see the output. If you get the value false, that means we are using mixed mode auditing. And if you see the value true, that means we're using pure auditing. That's a full auditing. So with mixed mode auditing, you still have an option to use both traditional and as well as the unified auditing. So that will give you the benefits if you use mixed mode auditing. But if you go with the full mode auditing, if you enable it or if you turn it on, then your all other traditional auditing becomes inapplicable. These are not useful. So you have to make sure and you have to decide what options you have to enable based on your project requirement. So let's see how we're going to enable the unified auditing. So to enable unified auditing, you must shut down the database. And then this is the one-time requirement when you create a database freshly. So you make sure what kind of auditing you required. Based on that, you plan your auditing options. So if you need to enable full mode auditing, you shut down the database and relink the libraries. So just need to go to lib folder location and run the relinking libraries. Once you complete the relinking libraries for step by step, then you change the permission based on the requirement. And you definitely see this kind of output when you run the relinking libraries. And make sure you don't run with any errors. If you run with any errors, then you should fix those errors before moving further. So once you complete the relinking libraries, then you start up the database, and you once you query the view, the $V option, you could see it is true. Earlier it was false. So when you see the value true, that means we are using full mode, or we're using the full mode or the pure mode we're using it. So when you see the pure mode or full mode auditing, then that is the true option. So now to demonstrate how to track the actions. So let me run this on my database, which I've connected. Now you can see 7 audit policies, which are default, which is enabled, which is available in the database. It means that these are not enabled by default. So these are the policies, you can use it. So if you want to see what are the policies are enabled, we can run this query and you can see that there are 2 policies which are enabled. So if you want to see the list of policies which are available, the available policies, you can query audit unified policies table. And if you want to see which are enabled policies, you can see audit unified enabled policies view. So you can see these two views are enabled. These two policies are enabled. And if you want to see what are the rules defined in the policies, we can query by same view, but you can use the audit option. So in this audit option, it will clearly shows what are we going to audit in this by using this policy. So if you see, there are many options you can track. So there are 40 audit options. Even if anybody create any job, any table, any privileges, if you grant or if you drop any procedures, those things will be tracked, and which will be tracked and stored in the audit trail table. So these are the by default. If you don't enable any policies as well, so these all activities will be tracked. So now let's talk about how we're going to create a custom unified audit policies. So it's a very simple, straightforward syntax: create audit policy and define your own policy name and what actions we're going to track it. What are the your audit options? What are the audit action you're going to track it? So let me create a new policy where I'm going to do, say this is the policy which I'm going to create policy names. I've used custom, select, insert, update, and this is the policy. So this is the policy name. And what action I'm going to track it? I'm going to track, select, insert, and update. So these three action, I'm going to track it on this table, card underscore details, which is already available in the database. And owner of the table is Feroz. So I'm going to create this policy. So I have created the policy. And also I have told after creating a policy, by default, it won't be enabled. So you must need to enable the policy. Now let's say if I go and see this policy which are enabled, and now you still see there are only two policies enabled. That means this policy is not enabled state. So you have to do audit policy and enable the policy name. So if you want to, oh, sorry, my bad. So you have to use audit policy and the policy name which I've created. This is the policy. So another policy is enabled. Now, if I query this table, now you see I have this policy enabled. And to demonstrate this, I'm going to create a user. Let's say I'm going to create a user test 5. So I'm going to grant create session and resource to test 5 user. And at the same time, I'm going to grant select, insert, update on the table, which I'm going to track it to test 5 user. So I have created a user. I have created a grant permission to connect and get the resources permission as well. And the same time, I'm granting select, insert, update on the table to the user. Now let me connect as a testify user. And yeah, before to that, I have another terminal open parallelly, and I'm going to run this, which is the table user testify. Now I want to track the auditing. Now see, I have no records. That means this user has not done any action so far. So now let me do select. Now I have selected. Now I could able to access the table. Now you run the query and see. Yes. Now the user actions are tracked. It clearly mentioned which user is trying to access and what query is trying to access and which is the policy is tracked and what is the time the user has query. So this is how we're going to track the user activity. Let me do insert. Let me do insert. Um, let's see, there is a name is Suresh, and I'm gonna give this card details and I've committed. Now, if I run here, now you see I can able to track the insert statement, which is the policy has tracked this insert statement. So at what time this insert has been done. This is how we can able to track the user activity based on your requirements. So we have defined our own custom policies to track individual users requirement. So now maybe once we configured the audit policies, now you may require to do some maintenance activity. Maybe you need to disable the audit policies, or you need to drop the policies, or you need to purge audit tables. So these are the routine DBA maintenance. So if you want to disable the any audit policies, custom policies, you use no audit option. That means you saying that no more auditing required. So you just use the policy name. So that will be disabled. And if you want to enable it, use audit policy, the policy name, and then audit policy will be enabled. And if you want to drop it, one thing you have to remember, you cannot drop any active policies. So you must disable it first, then you have to drop it. If you directly trying to drop it, you will get this message. Cannot be dropped because currently enabled. So you must disable it first, then drop the audit policies. And the purging requirement. So if you want to purge it, define your audit trail table and how frequently you want to purge table. You want to keep the data for 30 days or 1 month or year. So based on your requirement, you're going to purge your data. So this is basically you can configure, you can create a DBMS job and you can enable this job to auto purge the audit trail. So thank you. If you like my video, like it and subscribe it. Thank you.